Everybody has some sort of weird life. Have you ever felt like an outcast? Like the weird kid in school? Or the outsider in the office? We all have. But what if there is someone who had it worse than you did? Someone who took it to a whole new level? Someone who lived a stranger life than we could only imagine? This is not as much of a list of people with strange jobs as it is about people with fascinating lives different from ours. It is a list of people who have lived different lives that were worth taking note of. These are 20 people who live a strange life. Number 20. Leif Haugen. In this movie, The Lookout, Brian Bolster chronicles the lonesome summers of Leif Haugen. On a gravel road, the journey started in a little town. It resembles an outpost more than a town because there is only a general shop, a few residences, a temporary restaurant, and a hostel. The end of the winding gravel road marked the start of a trail. The winding route followed the drainage of a chilly, clear alpine creek as it passed through a moss-covered forest littered with fallen trees. A broad vista of a long valley was made visible as the trees on the ridge towards the top split apart. My final goal, a small hut perched on a mountain's crest, was beyond this location. Leif Haugen has spent the last few summers in this location. The United States Forest Service employs Haugen as a fire lookout. During the summer, he must watch over the pristine wilderness surrounding his isolated post in northwestern Montana, a few miles south of the Canadian border. His first work as a lookout came about in 1994 with the assistance of a friend. He is from Minnesota and learned about the lookout of life through the literature. Since then, he has continued to visit. He says it's a terrific way to spend the summer. There aren't many options, but they are all activities I enjoy doing, such as strolling, reading, writing, carpentry, and taking a thorough look around. Before we begin, like this video, smash the subscribe button, and click the notification bell right now, or this centipede will crawl on your face when you're sleeping. This brings us to the strange topic. In this world, there are people with unimaginable stories, but what could have led this man to take a doll as a life partner? Share your thought in the comment section below. This man is not a single person because he has a partner, which can be seen clearly as he takes care of. The doll is seen wearing a beautiful necklace. This man is an artist, a creator of dolls. He has made this doll for over 15 years and has been doing everything possible to take care of the doll, like his child or wife. The doll is the size of a regular doll, but features intricate facial features that he handmade himself. The doll sits beside him, where the man welcomes visitors and takes their pictures when they come over to call on him. Amazing, isn't it? What do you guys think of this? Do you think this might be real? Share your comments with the hashtag strange topic, and we'll pin the ones that can best explain what is going on in this picture. Number 19. Patarani Ghosh. According to reports, Patarani Ghosh spends between 12 and 14 hours daily on the lake because she and her family cannot afford to travel to a hospital for treatment. After all, they reside in a rural part of West Bengal. She exits the lake around dusk and returns home, where she completes any remaining tasks before going to bed. Due to an unidentified condition, the 65-year-old woman from a village in West Bengal, India, is said to have spent the last 20 years immersed in a nearby lake up to her neck daily. According to reports, the Indian Mermaid only consumes a small amount of rice and a few vegetables throughout the day because of her health issues and sedentary lifestyle. Her family normally brings her food to the lake where she eats while submerged in the water to avoid burning herself. Pataruni can't tolerate being alone, therefore she frequently invites family members and other villagers to visit and keep her company. Although her family members have expressed worries for her well-being, they are unsure of how else to assist her. After spending so much time in the lake, the superstitious residents of Pataruni's village think that she will eventually turn into the lake's spirit. Nevertheless, Pataruni's family is hoping that one day they will be able to take her to a doctor and have the unexplained illness treated. Number 18. Paul Walsh. Stories about people are like earthquakes, but they get tired of the ones that only destroy one city. So the lies of transgender people give tabloids something new to write about all the time. We're always curious, and the stories keep getting stranger and stranger. Bruce Jenner is a 65-year-old man who is changing into a 45-year-old woman named Caitlyn Jenner. What should I do next? To 52-year-old Paul Walsh, a Canadian mechanic with a wife and 7 children, who has changed into Stefanoki Walsh, a 6-year-old girl in frilly dresses who lives with adoptive parents and plays with their grandchildren. Even with the frilly dress, Stephanie doesn't look like a 6-year-old girl. She has a deep voice and is about 6 feet tall.
Given gender and our self-expressed gender, and it's called transgender.
But she likes to color with other kids and play with dolls. After being married for more than 20 years, it was hard to make changes. Paul's wife was confused. At first, she was okay with this interest in cross-dressing, but when he changed gender, she said that was enough and kicked him out of the house. He lost his job and spent months in a shelter for the homeless. He tried to kill himself twice. Now, though, he's proud of who he is now. Number 17. Amuhaji. Haji hadn't showered in about 17 years until a few months before his death in October 2022 at 94. Why is unclear. Locals say he feared water. Others say he stayed unclean to stay healthy because he felt cleanliness causes illness. Haji's solitude was attributed to adolescent trauma by most. According to ZME Science, he loved a woman who rejected him as a young guy. Haji seemed to enjoy his uncleanliness and many other oddities which most of us would find repugnant. Despite the prevailing belief that the traditional hygiene is essential to a long and healthy life, he lived with just one wash from the 1950s to 2022 and reached 94. Amuhaji's incredible fate. Amuhaji reportedly ate mostly roadkill. His favorite snack was a rotten porcupine. He had fresh food, but he hated it. Haji became enraged when villagers brought him home-cooked food and clean water. Despite rejecting fresh water, he drank a gallon a day. He drank from rusty oil tins and puddles. Haji's hobbies included smoking animal feces from his pipe. When there was no manure, he would smoke 5 tobacco cigarettes. Despite not bathing, Amuhaji worried about his appearance. He checked his reflection in random automobile mirrors and burned his hair and beard to the desired length with an open flame. Despite enjoying living alone, he seemed lonely at times. Haji had problems meeting people, but he maintained he wanted a marriage. Maybe staying dirty is a recipe for living long when a woman breaks your heart. Number 16. Victorian Couple. Sarah and Gabriel Chrisman may be from the wrong century. The couple has lived a Victorian lifestyle for 6 years. It's always been my favorite moment in history, Sarah said. She just assumed they were true because they were what everyone said. Sarah Chrisman changed her mind after trying a corset and finding it comfortable. Sarah Chrisman disagrees that maintaining their Victorian lifestyle requires a lot of labor. It's different work. And because I can see every step, I can see the mechanics behind it, she added. It makes me more aware of my life and impact, and I embrace that. They must have a modern phone, even though they've never had one, to exist in 2015. Sarah's had to use computers for research, but they don't want to be controlled by computers. The issue is that there are currently areas of the nation where it is uncomfortable to deviate from the majority population, whether that community is predominantly white, predominantly black, or whatever, according to Sarah Chrisman. These are all issues related to the human condition that we all still have to deal with. Not only has there been online criticism, death threats have been made against the couple, and when Sarah Chrisman is alone, she's frequently accosted by strangers. Maybe they came from the wrong generation. What would be your reaction if you met this couple? Number 15. Kaz James, the human dog. You might find this a little awkward, but it's true. I'm going to tell you about something you may not be familiar with. We'll discuss a man who made the conscious decision to live a happy life as a human pup. Kaz James, a 37-year-old store manager from Salford, Greater Manchester, claimed that since he was a child, he felt like a human pup. You won't believe James regularly wears canine outfits that cost $2,600 and behaves like a dog, since it seems weird to you. Along with eating from a dog's dish and interacting with family and friends by licking, barking, and biting them like a dog, he also wears canine suits. James feels that maturing into a large human was not particularly enjoyable because he does not find maturing into an adult thrilling. Therefore, he desires to lead a dog's life for the rest of his life. He discovered a pup play community online where he might meet other singles. With their assistance and encouragement, he was able to gain confidence. He claimed that I was well known among my family and friends for greeting them by biting or kissing the collars of their shirts or t-shirts when they were wearing them. I have always been this way, and I still am. What do you think of James? Tell us your view in the comments section below. Number 14. Chloe Jennings White, the woman who wants to live in a wheelchair. People with rare illnesses sometimes feel like their limbs were never meant to be part of them. She is aware that you probably don't understand. She is inspired to share her tale because of that. Chloe Jennings White of West Bountiful has garnered international attention for an intention to undergo a medical surgery that will render her immobile. She has a doctorate from Cambridge University and claims to understand the obvious. Wanting to be crippled is uncommon. She asks, how can a fully sane person want to be paralyzed? I'm not in any way crazy or anything, but even so, I'm aware that this is a hard concept for most people, including myself, to grasp. Body integrity identity disorder, or BIID, is a rare illness in which people would prefer to be paraplegic or amputation victims because they believe that one or more of their limbs are not meant to be a part of their bodies. The exact causes of BIID are unknown. While some researchers believe it to be a mental illness similar to anorexia or gender identity disorder, others believe there may be neurological explanations relating to how the brain maps the body. People who are paralyzed who have limbs amputated without their consent frequently react with anger. If they do so with some degree of conflict, when they hear stories like Jennings White's, they feel like she's wasting a valuable slot. Number 13. White German couple identifies black. The story of Martina Big, a white German model who has spent years transitioning into her picture of a black woman via extensive plastic surgery, including 32S breast augmentation, becomes more complicated just as you think you know everything about her. Doctors predict that the 30-year-old model's and her husband Michael Urin's future children will be black with a dark complexion, since they both identify as black after receiving tanning injections. The pair married in October and announced their engagement after receiving an injection. Both utilize the synthetic hormone melatonin to darken their skin. Have doctors informed you that your unborn child will be black? The host of This Morning, Holly Willoughby, inquired. They confirmed that they would be black. We've also talked about breastfeeding and whether having a child is safe for me, Martina reported. Angered by the reply, Willoughby shot back. If that baby is not black because I'm trying to understand how genetically this would be possible, will you still be close to them if you give birth to a white baby? Willoughby was shocked by the remark. Of course, it will be a combination of me and Michael, but I'm sure it will be black. It doesn't matter if it's milk chocolate or a little lighter. This is strange, man. Number 12. Mr. Broccoli. The Animal Rebellion protester Mr. Broccoli, who was detained on Sunday but later freed without charge, told co-host and presenter Susanna Reid that his job is just to develop and that his ultimate goal is to see the shift to a plant-based food system. Piers and Susanna, however, didn't find the humor in it. Susanna remarked, I find your argument dressed as broccoli so ridiculous that you're wearing a costume, but you're trying to get a serious point across about veganism. I understand what you're saying, and we're in serious trouble over this, Mr. Broccoli retorted. It's going to turn out badly. When it comes to the environment, do you live up to your words at home? Piers queried, do you have any electrical or television equipment? Mr. Broccoli responded, no, I'm just a broccoli. Piers and Susanna then criticized the guest's ignorance of environmental and meat-eating science. How can you achieve it if you're not familiar with the science? Piers remarked. The guest responded, well, I'm just a broccoli, before pulling a banana from his jacket pocket and pretending it was a phone. Then Piers yelled, the problem is, Mr. Broccoli, you would have had a real impact had you presented a very cogent, compelling science-based argument. How you dressed for your curse would have attracted a lot of attention, but coming here and acting like an idiot merely confirms our suspicions that you are an idiot. Frustrating, isn't it? But could he be real? Share your view in the comments section below. Number 11. Jadu, a transracial. Tampa, Florida. Jadu shows up at a coffee shop in a flashy purple car to talk about his new identity. Adam was his name when he was born, but Jadu thinks of himself as Filipino. He says that the purple vehicle he drives around is a tuk-tuk, an Asian-made vehicle used for public transportation in the Philippines. Jadu is a member of a small but growing group of people who think of themselves as transracial. It means someone born into one race but saw themselves as another. Sounds weird? To them, no. Jadu says that when he was young, he liked Filipino food, events, and culture. He said, "When I'm around music and food, I feel like I'm in my skin. When I had time, I'd watch the History Channel for hours, and things about Filipino culture were the only things that really interested me." If this sounds like something you've heard before, you might remember Rachel Dolezal. Dolezal was born white, but she saw herself as black and acted that way. She was even the leader of the NAACP group in Spokane, Washington. Number 10. Kyle Candilian. You won't believe how many creepy crawlers Kyle Candilian has to deal with, even if you thought your summer cockroach infestation was horrible. For almost 8 years, Candilian has been growing cockroaches. She even created a company selling some of the more exotic kinds as pets and some as food. He uses the money from his roach company to pay for college at the University of Michigan, Dearborn, where he is pursuing a profession in either forestry, pest control, or nature insect teaching. His love for cockroaches began when he visited the University of Detroit, Mercy. He was allowed to hold one of the cockroaches and observed how calm they were. When he arrived at home, he asked his mother whether he might get one. "Kyle," she said, "you will never introduce bugs into our house. The rest, as they say, is history." Candilian chuckles. Eventually, his parents caved into his cockroach passion, and what started as a few pets grew into a successful company called roachcrossing.com. For as little as a dime a dozen, Candilian offers his roaches to owners of reptiles and amphibians as sustenance. The most unusual species, like the 10 to 15-year-old Micropanisthea rhinoceros, might cost $150 to $200. He has been rearing cockroaches for almost 8 years, and he is still in amazement at the species' diversity. Number 9. An adult baby. I'm afraid you'll be shocked if you often equate the words National Geographic with pretty photographs of leopards to gaze at while you're waiting to see the dentist. This documentary focuses on 29-year-old Californian Stanley Thornton, who is extremely obese and spends his free time sleeping in a crib, playing with Legos, and wearing diapers and a romper suit. When you believe this is the most disgusting thing you have ever seen, Sandra, a woman much more ominous in appearance, comes in to spoon-feed Stanley. Stanley no longer seems to be the biggest freak in this scenario. You might even feel pity for Stanley after hearing his justification for why he finds solace in returning to being a baby. Additionally, the second woman in his freak show treats a vinyl doll she owns like a real baby, much to Dawn, French's character in Psychoville. Yes, I realize it's awful that some women cannot have children of their own. God created cats for precisely this reason. Bizarre, isn't it? Number 8. Turning the clock back, Emil Rattlebrand. A 69-year-old Dutchman is breaking new ground in the transgender community. Emil Rattlebrand, a colorful positive guru, has requested a judge to set his legal age back 20 years so he can be recognized as 49. He explained to the judge that he did not feel at ease with his age and that doctors had advised him that his body belonged to a person who was 45 years old. Rattlebrand calls himself a young god. In reality, he requests that his birth date be changed from March 11th, 1949 to March 11th, 1969. Naturally, Mr. Rattlebrand could lie about his age, but he claims he doesn't want to. His desired age is 49. The transgender movement inspired his request, which enables people to self-identify as whichever gender they choose. He merely wants to present himself as a younger man due to his youthful vitality and physique. We now live in a period where changing your name and gender is possible. He queries, why can't I choose my age? Why not transracialism if transgenderism is feasible? Why not transgenderism as well? No matter what the Dutch court decides, it's impossible not to understand the righteousness and logic of his life-enhancing goal. If this goes well, would you love to change your age? How many years younger would you love to be? It would be nice to reach your candid view. Number 7. Nano, the Norwegian woman's cat. A 20-year-old Norwegian woman named Nano is convinced she was born into the wrong species. Nano explains to the reporter why she believes she is a cat, including why she can hear and see better in the dark, hisses at dogs, walks on all fours, sleeps in sinks or windowsills, and doesn't hunt for water. I believe I will live as a cat forever. Why not then? Nano asserts that having the cat form grants her certain minor superpowers, including the capacity to see in the dark and hear exceptionally well. A reasonable exchange for a life spent pawing at windows while crawling on her hands and knees to get out? Maybe. She demonstrated how to speak like a human in case she gets into problems by explaining her catness during an interview. Nano, a furry? By certain definitions, perhaps. But unlike many furries, she doesn't wear a costume for role-playing or separate her human self from a fursona. Her cat identity also doesn't appear to be sexual, unlike that of many, though certainly not all furries. She doesn't want to be a two-legged anthropomorphic cartoon cat. And unlike her poser friend Sven, she is not a human with multiple identities, one of which is a cat. Regardless, Sven, she simply thinks she is a cat, and if she chooses to, that means she will hiss at dogs, be scared of the ocean, and disregard psychologists, so please leave her alone. Number 6. Heidrun Barth, the human mermaid. Growing up, Heidrun Barth recalled she adored the Disney heroine Ariel and purchased copies of The Little Mermaid, dreaming of the day when she too would be able to transform her human legs into a tail. She remarked, I feel like I'm a mermaid born in the wrong body, the body of a human. Even though I'm deaf, I'm well suited for a life in the ocean because I have no trouble using sign language while submerged. Then, one day, Heidrun enrolled her girls in a mermaid course. Heidrun has 3 daughters, Milena, now 11, Selena, now 9, and Rosalena, now 5. A particular mermaid course for kids had been mentioned, and I thought it was a fantastic concept. When I went to register my kids, I was informed that I could also take part, Heidrun recalls. The 41-year-old dreamed of purchasing a home by the sea with a pool so she could swim in her tail whenever she desired. She has spent more than 25,000 rupees on her own Ariel tail. Heidrun claims that her daughters share her love of mermaids, with the 2 youngest possessing a variety of mermaid-related books and toys. The mother of 3 claimed that her family had been quite understanding of her secret life, even capturing photos and films of her. She started selling custom-made sequin tails and now performs as a mermaid for crowds, including children. This might be a lucrative business and maybe you should start yours. Number 5. Dragon Lady Eva Tiama Baphomet Medusa. Tiamat has undergone extensive body modification to transform into a dragon, which makes her attraction obvious. Her eyes are colored green, her ears and nose have been gone, and she has scales tattooed all over her body in addition to implanted horns. Tiamat appears less human now. It was simple to believe that Tiamat was just an extreme who practiced body modification. It was naive as well. I was surprised by the significance of each surgery she has ever had, even though it might seem clear. Her body and face are covered in tattoos called scales designed to resemble the western diamondback rattlesnake. Western diamondback rattlesnakes, which shifted in the sands around Tiamat as she grew up in the desert, took on the role of her symbolic parents. Tiamat has experienced a lifetime of injustice at the hands of men, including discrimination, abuse, and sexual assault.
I'm so tired.
She talked about being raped and receiving an HIV diagnosis later, and it's obvious why Tiamat would desire to be a human. Given what humans have accomplished, she did not want to pass away, appearing like those who had harmed her. She decided to leave behind humanity itself and the skin she was born in out of fear that HIV would claim her life. She claimed that she could not continue living in a human form and that by leaving humanity behind, she could finally feel at ease coexisting with us. Number 4. Jareth Nebula, the alien. David Bowie's portrayal influenced the now 33-year-old's new legal name as Jareth the Goblin King in the 1986 fantasy film Labyrinth, a cult favorite. The barbershop receptionist, a native of Washington, was dismayed to discover that their gender transformation didn't seem to fill the vacuum in their life that had first motivated them to go through with it. Instead of being gender fluid, which describes someone whose gender identity is not fixed or believes they might be a combination of both genders, Jareth is agender, which means she is genderless or gender neutral. However, Jareth's transformation into this new identity went beyond simple cerebral maneuvers. To appear less human, they also had their nipples removed, their face covered in piercings, and they donned unearthly makeup. Jareth Nebula stated, "I don't think or feel like humans. I'm just otherworldly, so I can't express it to others. I didn't feel at ease in either gender or anything in the middle. I am aware that I am trapped in a human body and that it is how other people see me. But to me, I am an alien with no gender." Jareth remarked, "People treat me like a freak because I'm an extraterrestrial, but it's a legitimate thing to name yourself. Who are they to say what you can and cannot be? Let anybody who wants to identify as anything, including an animal." Number 3. Nguyen Van Chien. Nguyen Van Chien hasn't had a haircut in nearly 80 years. The Mekong Delta region of southern Vietnam's 92-year-old proudly has 5-meter-long dreadlocks that he hasn't cut, bathed, or combed in nearly 80 years. "I think I'll die if I cut my hair short." Chien, a follower of a disbelief that encourages leaving undisturbed what a person is born with, declared that she dared not to modify anything, not even combine it. "I merely take care of it and wrap a scarf around it to keep it clean, dry, and presentable." Chien, who reveres 9 supernatural beings and 7 divine beings, thinks that growing out his hair, which he covers with an orange turban, was part of his destiny. At school, he was compelled to trim it, but after the 3rd grade, he decided never to cut, comb, or wash it again. "I recalled that my hair was strong, thick, and black. I smoothed it out by combing and untangling it. However, when I heard the divine power calling, I realized immediately that I was chosen." Chien practices a nearly extinct religion called Dua, or the religion of the coconut. It was started by a man who claimed to have survived solely on coconuts to maintain his vitality. He has witnessed a guy pass away after attempting to reattach his hair with string, which has led him to share the belief that hair and mortality are related. Number 2. Mick Dodge. Due to his lack of shoes, Dodge is also referred to as the Barefoot Sensei. He devotes much of his time to running Earth Gym, where he instructs individuals on exercising using the surrounding nature. 62-year-old Dodge wasn't always a nomad. Before working 9 to 5, he served in the Marines for 6 years. Dodge was raised among the Ho. His great-grandfather was the first member of his family to make Forks his home. Mick, the son of a career Marine, was raised there and in other locations across the nation. Dodge claimed that his father was the one who instilled an enduring love of exercise in him. Daily at 5 a.m., we could cover 3 miles. I wouldn't get up till the middle. Dodge claimed to be a Vietnam veteran who served in the Marines for 6 years. Dodge built the Earth Gym. Imagine a YMCA in a forest, where the majority of the equipment for physical exercise is found in nature. Dodge instructs pupils who find him through websites and word of mouth in his techniques using cargo nets, straps, ropes, stones, limbs, burls, and other made and discovered equipment. Dodge wants people to know he is not some crazy survivor or hermit living in logs. "I'm a thrill vitalist," he said. Number 1. Martha Mason. Martha Mason has wanted to become a writer since she was a young child growing up in a small southern town in the 1940s. But she could not start writing a memoir until over 50 years later, with the help of a voice-activated computer. Ms. Mason, paralyzed from the neck down due to childhood polio, was one of the last few Americans, perhaps 30 people, to spend their whole lives in iron lungs. According to David W. Rose, the March of Dimes Foundation's archivist, no other American has ever been known to have done so for as long as she has. Martha in Lattimore, a 2005 documentary by Ms. Dalton features Miss Mason as its subject. She also appeared in the polio documentary The Final Inch, which received an Academy Award nomination this year. Ms. Mason led a life she said was fine and full from her horizontal universe, a 7-foot and 800-pound iron cylinder that contained all except her head. She read voraciously, received the highest honors in high school and college, entertained, and finally began writing. An acquaintance named Mary Dalton, who said that Miss Mason had passed away in her sleep, confirmed her demise. Amazing! The world is full of amazing people that will make you forget about your predicaments. Which of these people amazes you the most, and why? Share your view in the comment section below. Remember to share with your family and friends.